Welcome to Men's Anonymous, the podcast where men can be vulnerable and open without fear of judgment. Your host, Daniel Weinberg, leads authentic and unfiltered discussions that explore the challenges and triumphs of modern manhood. Join us as we break down barriers, challenge stereotypes, and redefine masculinity. Men's Anonymous, a safe space for men to lower their shields and share their inner world without judgment.
All right. So, Paul, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Where are you right now?
I am in a very grey UK. It's October, so I'm based in Brighton and Hove,
Right.
a small
nice.
city on the south coast, about an hour south of London.
Right. Did you grow up there, or you've moved there?
No, moved here with the family 10 years ago, actually. 10 years ago in September, just gone. So, yeah. Great city. I highly recommend it. It's a mini London by the sea.
Nice. Why don't we kick off with, you've had a really interesting journey that's taken various turns in the road. Why don't we start off with, so you grew up in the UK, but why don't you tell us your, more of your, let's say, college, going into the direction you took in your life, and we'll come to where you are today.
Yeah, sure, happy to. I grew up in the northeast of the UK and left when I was quite young. So, but that's significant because it's kind of where my roots are and family roots are. But actually was moved away from the northeast at a very young age, at 3. And that's quite unique in my family. The rest of my broader family,
they're all still there.
They're all still there, and I think that's a good thing. It's a beautiful thing. They're very tightly connected. But I think it says a lot about my upbringing. It says a lot about my parenting, and it says a lot about their aspirations. So I grew up more in the south of the UK. Studied computer sciences pretty badly. I really enjoyed the university. I was very, very good at my first year. So good, I did it twice.
Yes.
And I kind of floundered at university. I was on the wrong course, bad, it wasn't the right teaching for me, and decided to leave actually after 3 years, and just wanted to get into work. I had kind of ambition, and I had ideas.
Did you know what you wanted to do already at that stage in life, or?
I liked and I still like technology, so it was a hunch then, but I'm going back to 1997, and the internet really wasn't really around. The tech wasn't at all what we know today, but I knew I had a fascination for kind of change and innovation, and that's been a pretty consistent theme throughout my life and certainly throughout my career. So I jumped off this systems analyst degree, which is training me to be a developer, and dived into marketing. Actually worked in a small regional agency down in the south coast, and just loved it. Was given a long leash, lots of responsibility, free rein to learn lots of skills, and I loved it. I really enjoyed it. 3 years down there. But I had itchy feet, and kind of lots of my friends wanted to travel, so I took a year out and traveled Southeast Asia.
So what age are we talking now?
So I'd have been early 20s, 21, 22. A little bit of cash in my pocket, having worked for 3 years, and spent a year and a half in Southeast Asia, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia, and a period I'll never ever forget. I then moved back to London. Well, I didn't move back to the South Coast. I took up a job in London and continued the kind of marketing route. I joined a big global agency called Ogilvy, pretty well known. And it was at the time of the dot-com bubble, really, 2000, I guess. Yeah, 2000 I joined. Yep. And it was a phenomenal time in tech. And I think I caught the bug. At the time there were very early dot-com entrepreneurs peddling.
That was a time where you could dream as big as basically your imagination was your limitation.
Absolutely. Well, you just didn't. there was a number of slides you had in your deck. That was your business.
Right.
And people were getting funding on the back of decks and were IPOing within 12 months. And it was a crazy and fantastical time for me. Being Ogilvy, lots of companies were coming to Ogilvy, global brand success. They've raised a lot of money, and so to go to the best agency seemed like the right thing to do at the time, which is why so many tech startups did that because they burnt cash really, really quickly. But it was a wonderful, wonderful period. I met my wife there, so there was a lot of good came out of Ogilvy. I moved on. I moved to another pretty big agency.
You married once, still married?
Yeah, still married, 20 odd years,
Wow.
21 years. Yeah.
Getting to unicorn status.
Indeed. Well, there should be some medals or something.
Yeah, 100%, definitely.
But I moved agency. Actually, we tried to get a relocation. My wife and I, we tried to get a relocation to China. We really within Ogilvy, but that's a big ask. We were a dating couple back then. I kind of understand why they didn't want to relocate us to one of the Chinese offices. I was just fascinated with travel at the time. So it decided to move to another agency, and in total spent about 8 years in big global agencies, where I became increasingly frustrated with the model. I didn't like the big agency consulting model, that you'd meet the grey-haired experienced people on day one, then all the work's pushed down into a hamster wheel. And so in 2006, I set up my first business. It was 100% distributed business, 100% virtual agency. 20 of us across Europe had, 10 years or so experience in tech marketing, and a leap of faith really. But, because back then the expectation was you had big glass meeting rooms and expensive biscuits, and, that was the way of the world. No one worked out of a private members club and didn't have offices. We communicated via Skype, for those that may or may not remember Skype. I think it's still around, but
still around, yeah.
Dropbox was just being launched. So we glued this business together as the antidote to the agency model, which for me was BS. It was really, being charged out at astronomical day rates. And so Switch ran for 11 years, which was a brilliant and learned part of my life. It was a great part of my life for 9 years. The last 2 years, I'd really had enough.
So you pioneered at-home working? Before it became a thing.
In 2006, it was,
Wow.
I could see that there were skill sets out there. I actually saw a lot of mums who I'd worked with who'd gone and had children were like, I'm desperate to get back to work. And I knew that they were great communicators, great marketers, but they couldn't find their way back into the workplace. So Switch Communications, my agency, represented a really flexible way for people to work and live. But yeah, it was pretty out there back then. I'd kind of grown tired of it after 9 years and wound it up after 11. And actually that coincided, so 10 years ago, with my move down to the South Coast. When I wasn't running the agency, the shift out of London to Brighton felt quite seismic at the time. And, I was thinking it was going to be a daily commute or weekly commute on the train. And actually the world's unraveled very, very differently in the last 10 years. So what was the original inspiration to move from London out to the big smoke to the little smoke? Yeah, I'd say family. I would say family was the motivation. London's a tough city. Any big city is tough on you as a human, as an individual. My children were turning 8 and 6, and it just felt like a safer place for them to be out of London. There are dangers everywhere, but I just think there are greater dangers in cities like London. So I was desperate to move. Actually, it became quite divisive, to be really honest. And my wife and I were at loggerheads. She didn't want to go. You wanted to go. Yeah. Wow. I mean, it resulting in, marriage counseling.
Seriously?
And, yeah.
Wow.
Lizzie thought, my wife Lizzie thought the world would come to an end if she left the M25. You know, I think when you sip the Kool-Aid of a big city like London, it's moreish and quite addictive. But its sheen had worn off for me. I'd had enough, and the noise, the pollution, the lack of space, which actually is now really manifesting itself in my life. Really importantly, it just wasn't there. I had one happy place in London when I used to ride a motorbike around London. I had a really happy place, and it wasn't until many years later I realised why it was my happy place. It's a bridge called Waterloo Bridge, and if you're going south to north on Waterloo Bridge, the river bends around you. And it wasn't until later I realised it's the only place in London you kind of really get a vista. You get a bit of a horizon, and I just felt comfortable and safe in that. So that was, I felt trapped, I think. Delighted to say we did the work, my wife and I. We put the work in, and Lizzie absolutely loves it down there. So it was a really good move, really, really good move.
So when you say you did the work, so you decided it became that bad, you decided to go do couples therapy, but to talk about basically, I want to live here and she wants to live there, and this is obviously a problem because we're together and we should be aligned to want to live in the same place. Basically, I mean that's big. I'm sure that happens with a lot of couples, to be honest. Where it's just like they want to experience something different. So how did you how did you guys work through that? What would you say were the compromises or let's say the negotiation of that process?
Yeah, patience. We were polarized over a topic. We were polarized over, and I think that topic could have been anything in any relationship.
Oh, totally.
We can find ourselves on the opposite side of the bridge, and our view and our opinion is just locked in. And I think
it's big because it's got a big impact on your lives. It could potentially mean one is happy and one is not happy. So it's like, someone's sacrificing something there.
Yeah, there's got to be some give. And I feel like it was a process that did take 2 years. It became heated, but it never felt terminal, which is the reason we're still together now. There were deeper things to the relationship, but we needed to join back together in the middle of the bridge, which was the analogy.
What got it over the line, would you say?
It was a particular house in Brighton.
Right.
I'm being glib, but we were looking at places, and some cities weren't right for Lizzie or weren't right for me. And in fairness, because of the process, we absolutely ended up in the right city because of the time it took, because of my wife not wanting to rush. We looked at lots of the wrong places where I'd have gone, get me out of London. We ended up down here in Brighton and looked at a house, and it was a beautiful house, and it became available, and just like all good things in life, when you start pushing on doors that are opening, that you're kind of going in the right direction. So all fortunes kind of opened up. The house became available. We secured it. We moved into it. We got the school that we wanted for the kids, and we've never ever looked back. So that was 10 years ago.
So do you think she loves it equally as much as you?
More, absolutely more. I hope she doesn't hear this. Well, she knows this, but I've already got itchy feet. I've been here 10 years.
Right, time to move.
Well, I'm planning a 5-year horizon now, so I'm just giving it time. The kids are of an age where we're in a second kind of relationship, or third relationship, pre-kids, kids, and now post-kids era, and we're reinventing ourselves as a couple, and you suddenly have the opportunity to go, we can actually decide where we want to be in the next decade, how we want to live, where we want to live, because our children are beautiful and independent and growing up and doing their thing. And that's really exciting and also a bit daunting, but
It could be both,
it's a
right? It
love.
could be exciting, it could be scary because, you've had this
Yeah.
dynamic of a family unit and then you know, the birds leave the
Mm,
nest and then it's like just the two of you again. It's like,
yeah.
okay, let's
Who
go.
are you?
Yeah,
There's a period of
totally.
reinvention and reestablishing our roles because it's such a seismic part of our life. Paternal, maternal roles that we play. Suddenly, you take that away, and it's well, who am I and who are we? So that's been a beautiful process, and is an ongoing process. And looking at places just that, maybe earlier in the year, January, February, March, they're a bit warmer, a bit brighter than, a bit sunnier than the UK would be enough. I love the city. Probably don't ever want to leave it fully, but would like to spend some time elsewhere.
Hmm. Adventure. So tell me,
Yeah.
you then, um, with regards to your career, you had a bit of a fork in the road there,
Mm.
unwound your business, and then where to next?
Yeah. So I'd always been on the agency side, consulting for numerous brands and businesses, helping them with strategy. I'm a tech marketer. I help build early stage tech companies is what I do. I worked at Google. I've been a lead mentor for Google over the years, helping their startup businesses. And I moved down here and actually got talking to a neighbor who was building a business out of New York, a very early stage business in the rideshare space, providing taxi insurance to rideshare drivers. And there was five of us around a kitchen table, 100 yards down there, and we hacked away at it for 12 months, none of us earning
Mm.
anything. And suddenly we got a bite, and suddenly I found myself inside the strapped into strapped into a rocket ship of a startup, and it absolutely flew. We were in the right time in the right place with a good product, and had an amazing journey. We built this business, this tech startup in New York, launched the business in the UK, further launched it in the Netherlands, in Amsterdam, raised tens of millions of dollars. We're partnered with Uber and some of the biggest insurance companies in the world. And it was an incredible rocket ship, a really brilliant ride, and formative in my learning and understanding of being on the client side. It was also formative in me neglecting myself. I actually burnt out after, about 4.5 years. Through lockdown, I would say that compounded the situation.
So
Just
you lost the balance, the work-life balance.
totally,
Mm.
like it was everything, and totally hooked on it. It's super addictive startup when it goes, and even when it doesn't go, it's addictive because there's so much feedback you get from a small business like that. When you do something, you have success or failure, and it's that's really addictive. And I realized I am addicted to it. I can't. It's my habit. My name is Paul Doran, and I'm hooked on startup.
Well, this show is called Men's Anonymous, so like this is so you're
Yeah,
a startup addict basically.
I
Okay.
am. I am. It continues on, but it's the peril of working in early stage technology businesses. They are inherently
High
unstable,
risk. Yep.
high risk,
Yeah.
which makes them fascinating and wonderful, but also high risk. And yeah,
High
so
risk and a bit of an emotional roller coaster.
yeah, you have to have everything in it because it's a 7 days a week job. And if you don't love it, then you're not willing to put that time in.
So
You're not willing.
would you say then it's more of a young man's game and someone in their 40s starting up doing startups? I mean,
I
it's a,
wouldn't. I wouldn't. Unfortunately, what startups need is experience.
mm,
I think there's a lot of brodom there has been a lot of brodom, masculine, young, inexperience in the startup businesses themselves. And I think that's been mirrored in the investment landscape. I think there's been a lot of inexperienced people investing in companies from a VC perspective that give poor advice based on no experience. And there's been this collegiate dance, I would say, that hasn't been helpful, that hasn't been healthy. It's really interesting to see the collapse of the VC space in the last 2 years. The post-Uber era, a lot of people call it, the kind of post-growth at any cost, and a return to proper business values, sustainability, profitability, solid products, not just growing
real business
by venture money, real businesses.
Yeah.
I think that's a good thing. So you need energy to run and found a startup, but you also, there are shortcuts and ways that you can avoid pain. And I think that comes through experience. So you need a combination, I'd say.
So 2022, burnout, double startups, and you decided to shift. And you made a shift. Talk me through. Let's talk through what was the I guess the event or the light bulb moment, or what was that one point in time that you can go back to and say, that's when I decided to turn right instead of keep going left?
Ironically, I'm working in my back bedroom today, and it was a breathwork session, an online breathwork session I did that was quite incredible, like profoundly life-changing in terms of my physiology, how I felt.
So why don't you explain what a breathwork session is for those who've never done breathwork sessions?
Yeah, it was new to me. It was really new to me. I thought it was a bit weird. I thought it was a bit mumbo jumbo, a bit woo-woo, and not for me.
But how did you even find out about online breathwork sessions?
Yeah, I'd been studying through burnout the nervous system. I studied polyvagal theory, which is a nervous system in the body that helps regulate or deregulate stress. And it became really clear to me that the breath is an accelerator pedal, but the breath is also a brake pedal. And that really resonated and clicked through this self-education I was doing. I discovered a fascinating guy called Johnny Miller, who was doing online breath work sessions. But were you particularly stressed out at the time that you were looking for, hey, I'm not really coping well here, so I need to find some sort of tool or an outlet to de-stress or get myself recentered or rebalanced? Like what would you say? Where did your curiosity get piqued? I describe myself as a curious human, so I was looking everywhere. I felt a sense of dis-ease post this burnout, or at the end of this burnout. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand what had gone on in my body, why I felt the way I did in my chest. What were you feeling? How would you describe how you were feeling? I think lost, really. I was lost. I was unanchored. I wasn't making clear decisions. I wasn't making good decisions. I was probably self-medicating quite a lot to take my mind off things. Really wasn't present, probably in relationships and with family. I remember my family saying they'd lost me for 3.5 years, 4 years. They'd not, It's your wife or your parents or your kids? All of them. Seriously. Yeah, just consumed. Wow. Just consumed by building businesses and not present and not feeling like someone that they knew formally. So I knew that there was something wrong, and breath work appealed. It just appealed. It was logical, and I'm quite logical. I'm like, well, I can understand how that regulates chemistry in the brain, which pacifies nervous systems. So I did this breathwork session, and it blew my mind. I mean, it was a 50-minute, what they call consciously connected breathwork session, where you literally breathe out and in through your mouth as hard as you can for an hour. It sounds really simple, but you change your brain physiology, you change your body's chemistry from alkaline into an alkaline state. You shut down prefrontal cortexes of your brain through that chemical change, which changes your brain, your thinking patterns. And ultimately, you end in this incredibly psychedelic, psychedelic, I'd say, psychedelic, deeply restful state, which I hadn't felt for a long, long time. And that was the start of a beautiful relationship with breathwork. I practice it every day now. Not quite so explosively every day. I don't need to visit Mars every morning, but
so how long? What's your ritual? How long?
Yeah,
how long do you...
I vary it. I change it up. There are so many different types of breath work you can do, pranayama, yogic type breathing, through to just controlling and regulating the depth of your inhale compared to your exhale. This is about changing the chemical physiology in your body. And so there are many, many different ways. And I change it up to keep it interesting. I meditated for a long time, but I got quite bored of that. It was just too samey. Breath work for me is a great distraction from the mind, because you're actually focused on doing something. It worked much better for me than meditation.
And what would you say let's say the positive effects were for you? Like what how would you like summarize the benefits? That, you know, what you obviously were like, wow, this is feeling really good for me. What did that mean for you exactly?
Yeah.
Were you sleeping better at night? Were you like more clear during the day, making decisions? Were you more present? Like what would you say the benefits were?
I think it was a beautiful sense of my ability to control my own body and to self-regulate feelings and emotions, and to, I think, what they kind of call these days introspect, to look in and to go in and
be connected with yourself.
Yeah, rather than thinking everything's happening to me, it's all external and I kind of just have to cope. It's like, shit, no, I can deflect this, or I can just not even think about that because it's not important. It was this idea that I can take control of my mind and my body for good, for good use. I wasn't just some victim of external circumstance. I could introspect. I could change how I was feeling simply by stopping, slowing down, adjusting my breath. And so with that, I think, you're basically engendering a sense of calmness. And obviously with that, you think clearer, you sleep better, you want to exercise in the right way, you want to look after yourself in the right way. It's just a beautiful.
And I'm sure those around you are also like more drawn to you because, oh wow, he's so calm and so centered. Like your kids, your wife, they would have, if you're talking about such a big shift, they would have noticed something.
Without question. Yeah, the shortness, the quick to explode, that temperature, that temperament was lowered, and I physically remember like literally taking heat out of my body. The Indian cultures talk a lot about doshas and heat spots and energies in the body. I could physically feel eventually just that heat and almost rage or anger or tension or stress, whatever you want to call it. Just I can control that. I can regulate that. And that was a beautiful sense of realization.
And so what age are you, just so we understand the chronology, like?
Yeah, so this is going back 40. Okay. So, sorry, 45, crikey. Yeah, I'd say 45, mid-40s, a pivotal time. It's now I'm 49. And so kind of clearly my transition felt like it was starting there as a man, my role, my responsibility, who I thought I was, why I was on the planet, what I was here to do, and had I achieved or had I not achieved what I wanted to do. I think it feels like that was the period for me when everything just started to piece together in a good way.
Okay, so you had this experience, and then where have you taken it from? You're 45, you're 49 today. It sounds to me like you reallocated your energies and your brain real estate to focusing on, oh, this feels good. I want more of this. So where have you taken it from 45 to 49 with, with that?
I think it's a really nice way to frame it and to look at it. It's a reallocation of heart and mind and body, and I have definitely made that shift. I've probably pushed things a little further than most in the last 4 or 5 years. I've actually trained
in terms of exploring.
Yeah. I went way out that way. I trained as a shamanic healer. I journeyed with a tribe through the UK, through a tribe linked to a tribe in Brazil. But I trained in the UK with various shamanic healing techniques, and shamanism is simply the kind of forgotten art of using nature for healing and wellness. So the 4 elements of fire, air,
very ancient methods and learnings and wisdom of nature and how that can
we've forgotten about, that we've moved away from, because actually sitting under a tree doesn't earn big pharma any money. Swimming in cold water doesn't earn big pharma or doctors any money. Tablets sell or drugs sell. So this idea of shamanic healing is quite beautiful. I journeyed with some plant medicines. I've understood a lot of the techniques that shamanism brings back to life, and that's been wonderful. I don't practice. It's simply been about education. I guess that's a curious human in me. It's like, wow, where can this go? How can I use this? And
so in terms of how you stay balanced, or how you achieve what who you are today, what would you say is your what's your daily ritual? What's involved in your daily ritual? I think it'd be very helpful. Just I find it, and it's very much tailor-made for everyone. Different things are going to work. Like you were talking about meditation, how it got a bit boring for you. You can get the same effects out of meditation as you can breathwork, for example, and multiple other sort of activities. I'm not suggesting your technique is the technique that all the listeners should apply, but like it's more about testing, experimenting, trial and error, and seeing what responds well to you in terms of is yoga, is exercise, is reading, is just getting up. Naval Ravikant gets up and he decides he's going to do nothing for an hour and just see what happens. Just disconnect, and it's not really. It's a form of meditation, but it's not really meditation as like a traditional meditation. So what are your rituals that work for you?
My rituals are not to listen to any of those people, and I will not be one of those people that say you need to do 30 things before you get out of bed, because there's it's bullshit. It's just bullshit. I would, people need to listen to their bodies. We've lost touch with their bodies, with our bodies.
With ourselves, in a holistic way, the body, the mind, your emotion.
Yeah. The body, reminds you and nudges you and tells you and gives you warning signs. And I think we all owe it to ourselves just to listen in more, lean in more. I think and do less, not do more. Don't do more. Like, don't do the 3 things that are going to make you rich this week, or the 10 things that are going to make you more. Like, they aren't the answer. Like, the answers. We all know the answers for ourselves, and just sitting and listening and giving yourself more time. I think. Giving yourself a day or an afternoon or even an hour of saying, right, that hour's for me. Whatever I do with it, that's for me, because I matter. And if I just happen to sit in and listen to myself, or I go and do something I love doing, I think that's the best. That's been the best thing for me, to listen to my body and work out what's right for it, because what's right for me is not right for you, Daniel, et cetera, et cetera. I think turning off the digital noise is definitely part of it. That's helped. But listening to your own mind and your own body.
So tell us your rituals though. Give us some of the rituals that work for you. The breath work.
Yeah, I live near the sea, so I would say every day I start with some form of breath work. Probably closely followed with a gratitude ritual, just a gratitude saying to engender kind of gratitude in the body. It's a very high and powerful frequency when you feel gratitude, not just say things. You have to feel.
Is this something you think? Is it something you journal or you say out loud? How does that play out?
A bit of both, a bit of all of the above. Yeah, it's a saying that resonates with me, and but it's about feeling the effect of it. Feeling gratitude is a very high level frequency for the body. It's very calming. It's very good. So a bit of breath work, a bit of gratitude, and then walking. Walking for me has been the answer. I have a dog, which is very helpful. Probably walk an hour a day minimum. I most of the time in the hills near. We're sandwiched between the sea here in Brighton, sandwich and some hills, not mountains, just hills. But it's a beautiful place to walk. I used to take audiobooks and be cramming in learning, but I've stopped. I've realized actually this is time off.
Just silence. Whatever happens. And that's
completely.
it.
Yeah, completely. And then I am pretty rigorous with never allowing meetings before 11 a.m. or calls. That's my time. I function best between kind of 5 a.m. and lunchtime. I operate best. I now know that. So I keep as much of the morning clear for thinking, planning, writing, doing, rather than just being on calls or doing meetings. And then just in general, I'm 50 this year. I'm 50 next month. And so actually I've really got into stretching, kind of yogic stretching and just mobility stuff to make sure that I'm keeping kind of vital bits of me moving. There's this 5 Tibetan rites. It's all over YouTube, a really simple thing to search for. Some really lovely movements that are supposed to promote longevity. And
what's it called? Say that again.
The 5 Tibetan rites.
The 5 Tibetan rites.
Yeah, it's like quite a series of yogic movements that you can do in 15 minutes, and they fundamentally they move the spine quite significantly, backwards, forwards, left, right. Really powerful. So yeah, and then I guess a moderation of absolutely everything else. Wine, beer, food, indulgences, like just a bit of moderation. And stop beating myself up. Like I could be really bad at going, oh, you can't have that now. You can't have that. It's a Tuesday. Self-critic. Yeah. Right. Not now. I've just let go of that. It's like it's not. It's not like I was an addict to something. But I would be self-critical, and it's like, if you want to have a glass of wine, Paul, on a Tuesday night, have a glass of wine. It doesn't matter, so just being a bit kinder to myself.
And then you took that and you partnered with a mate of yours, and you've started another startup, which is a platform for men, correct? Mm-hmm. The Tryb. Why don't you talk us through how that came about?
Sure. I guess Tryb is a product of my own journey. My curious want to find answers to why my body was feeling a certain way, what burnout was, and I wanted to find solutions to that. And actually it was really hard. It was a lot about word of mouth. Someone knows someone that goes to this men's walking group or this men's sharing circle, or there's a meetup just for men in a coffee shop on a Friday morning.
So
you
random.
really found it. Yeah. And so Tryb is a hopefully an answer to that. There is some really good work happening out there. There are great groups, but they're quite hidden. And also, it's very hard. It appears very hard to persuade men to get involved. To to perhaps admit that actually something isn't right, that something isn't feeling right. Partners, lovers, friends, family can say whatever they want. It's not until that individual says, I'm ready to go and seek help. And that could be anything from therapy to community groups that are there to support people, support men.
So going into a space where they can sort of open up, let go, and peel back the layers, for want of a better expression.
Yeah, I mean, that's a classic men's group, a sharing circle, are increasing in popularity. Look, we've got a problem, Daniel, in society. We've really got a problem, not just with men or young adolescent men. I think there's a growing sense of dis-ease amongst people that life isn't fulfilling them in the way that we've been promised. There's so many systems around us that are not serving us well, whether that's, capitalism, economics, politics, healthcare systems, the food industry. We've reached a point where we're going, this is not good enough. We're being made sick. We're being kept sick. We're being kept poor or being made incredibly wealthy. And there's a dis-ease and a discomfort in the systems, and men, not exclusively, seem to shoulder quite a bit of that burden as the traditional provider, as the a breadwinner.
The prescribed role of what the man is supposed to, the role the man's supposed to play in society. That's what you're
and that
to.
role, and indeed, and that role's changed, rightly so. There's a balancing up, and the rights, the rise of feminism has been a brilliant thing, the balancing up. But I think men have lacked new role models, and there are some startling statistics in the UK that male suicide is actually the biggest killer of men under 50, and
wow.
It's even worse than that, because 3/4 of those that take that action are not under any kind of supervision. They're not currently talking to a doctor. They're not on medication.
So they're surprise events.
It comes out of the blue. It's almost like a last ditched attempt, of despair. This idea of
but where do you, so they're suppressing a lot, but what's driving that, would you say? Like what tends to be the reasons why someone decides to take their life at 45 as a man? Well, what do they say the reasons are behind this?
Well, financial pressures quite often are high up there, relationship issues, but a spiraling out of control that ultimately isn't shared with others. Physiologically, you and I are probably quite unique talking in this way, that we don't emote, we don't open up as a species, as a male. If we think back to our ecology, where we came from, we were out providing, we were out hunting. Emotions are secondary and not really required when you're out trying to survive. And so we haven't evolved in lots of ways, and we do need to. If you think about wives or girlfriends or partners, there's a very natural support infrastructure, a network where conversations take place really naturally about deeply personal things that you and I, or perhaps men, don't traditionally talk about. So that support structure and support network just isn't there for men. If you search mental health services, or if you search for support services, there is a huge amount for women, but not for men. And so this idea that you have to know someone to find a good service provider, for us at Tryb, is a really bad thing, because that's just propagating the problem of men not being able to find a solution to perhaps despair or depression, or not feeling connected to people. It isn't always about solving suicide. Suicide is obviously a horrific outcome. Sure. There's a much longer journey, and so Tryb is a marketplace of services where any man can go on and search for a provider that might just help inflect the direction of their life by 1 degree. And that's all that we ask. We're piloting it in Brighton at the moment, but we'll be rolling it out, much wider in the next couple of years. So
amazing. Do you have your own tribe, a group of friends or men that you meet with on a regular basis or open up to, would you say?
I do now. I didn't.
When did that come about?
I think over the last 4 years, the realization I think the realization of just how powerful they are to sit in a circle or a room with men and not feel like you have to prove or that you have to have any kind of guard up. It's really, really liberating, really liberating. We live in a bit of a bubble here. Brighton is a very open city, and there's a lot of it that goes on. I think it's patchy across the rest of the country, or indeed the globe. I think how willing men are to open up and emote. I mean, I know there's a culture in the US of therapy. It's very, very common. In the UK, we're a very closed, species and culturally not open to being emotive, to being emotional. If you think back to parents, my parents and certainly my parents' parents were probably involved in war at some point, and emotions are not required in war. And then we had this kind of industrial shift where work was the proving ground, and so that softer side, I'm hesitant to use that word, that emotional side of the male has been lost. And there's not been good role models. There's been a bit of a vacuum.
Well, it was actually frowned upon to even show such weakness by, by being emotive or not being able to cope with, whatever was happening in their life. So it's actually seen as unmasculine in a way. So
which is crazy, and we've obviously seen the rise of kind of the toxic side of the internet and these role models, the Andrew Tates of this world that have appeared in the vacuum. They've appeared simply because there's a vacuum, and rightfully that's been shut down, and rightfully they've been found out as to exactly who they are. But Tryb is currently focused more at men at over 40. But for me, I think there's equally a huge job to be done with young adolescent men.
Okay, so if I was to ask you, if you had the opportunity to either give advice or transfer over some wisdom or tools to 18-year-old Paul, what would that be? Given where you are now, you're 49. What would you tell 18-year-old self?
Yeah.
About how to, I guess, travel on the, on the journey that you did, but with a, let's say, a better mindset or in a more optimal fashion.
It's pretty easy for me, actually, because I have been impatient a lot of my life and strived to prove, but striving to prove myself to myself.
Is it to yourself or getting validated by others?
Absolutely, yeah. A bit of both. I think they're hand in hand, and I've been impatient, and there's nothing more valuable than being patient and giving yourself time, and saying that what you're doing is enough. And whatever ambitions you have, high, large or small, if you're committed to them, they will happen. And you just have to be patient. I was quite impatient. So patience is what I'd probably tell my 18-year-old self.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to finish off with a few quick fire questions, which I like to ask my guests, and you can answer as short or as long as you wish. And so we'll go one by one. Who would you like to say sorry to, given the chance?
That's a good question. I would probably say myself. for being hard on myself, for being so hard on myself. And I've achieved a lot. And I'm really grateful for that. But I wasn't always as kind to myself. So apology to myself for beating myself up so often.
Okay. What are you proud of being or doing in your life?
That would be a husband and a father.
Husband and father, okay. When did you receive kindness whilst needing it most and expecting it least?
Yeah, I didn't really have an answer. I don't really have an answer for that one, if I'm honest. I did think about it. You might need to cut that one out.
Okay. What did your mother or father teach you that you frequently remind yourself of? What were the key lessons you learned from your mother or father or both?
Yeah, two things. It would be work ethic, how you approach work, and I think caring, being empathetic and understanding of other people's needs and wants around you. They would be my two.
And finally, what is
You're building this up? Is this going to be a big one?
This is the big one. What is your superpower? Everyone's got nice. A superpower. What's Paul's superpower?
I would say I am pretty unflappable in a crisis.
Wow! So when the shit hits the fan, you're as steady as she goes.
I get clarity of vision when there's noise and mess all around me, which is probably why I love startup.
I know a few people like that. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
Super interesting. You're doing really amazing work. There's a lot that needs to be done in the men's mental health space and just overall men becoming better men. So I think if you get the Tryb humming, I think it'll be something you could mostly roll out to a lot of places because this situation is not exclusive to the UK, but really something that exists everywhere, and I think we're all going through it and waking up to the situation. So thank you.
Well, thank you to you. Thank you to you as well. Thank you to you for giving it a platform. Really great to speak with you.
Awesome. Take it easy. Okay.
That's it for this episode of Men's Anonymous. Thank you for listening. For more information on the Men's Anonymous podcast, including resources discussed in the show, visit mensanonymous.com. Join us next time as host Daniel Weinberg provides a non-judgmental space for men to voice their innermost feelings and thoughts.